let's go over the last strategy that hasn't been explained in those two YouTube videos. And this one is a reasoning strategy that um, has been called greater number of larger pieces or greater number of larger parts, or even just kind of this. I've heard people even call it like the obvious or like a no duh strategy. And I know you're like, what in the world does that mean? So what we want to think about is when we have two fractions and these would be specific fractions. So think about it like 7/11ths. And so remember, so we want to think about fractions as this relationship between the numerator and denominator. And so 11ths aren't a very big number, but they're also not a very small number, right? So when we want to compare that to um, maybe even 6/13ths. And so what we think about is 11ths are bigger than 13ths. And, right, we look at the denominator to tell us the size of the fraction. And then we look at the numerator to see, right, how many pieces we have, right? How many? And so we see that, 7 is more than 6. So, and maybe when you first see 7/11ths or 6/13ths, you can start thinking about some of those benchmarks. Is one bigger than a half, less than a half? But sometimes they'll both be on one side of that benchmark. And so remember, we want to look at this relationship. So with 11ths being bigger and having more of them, right? So 7/11ths is greater than 6/13ths. Maybe we can even do one of those. Then we can say, because, right, 11ths are bigger than 13ths, and, right, we have more than that. We have 7 of them. Then more of them. There we go. We have 7 versus 6 of them. There are a number of examples that have this. We can think about another one, maybe even like 19/22. And now again, we want to think about, okay, if we want to compare 20 seconds, maybe we want this to be bigger. Then we want 19 to be bigger, right? We want to have more of these parts. So maybe we'll just say 16. And then we also want now maybe 25ths or 23rds, right? We want the denominator to be bigger as well, because that's going to be, right, the bigger the denominator, then the smaller the parts. So that's why this is a reasoning strategy, kind of about the size of the pieces, right, with the denominator, and then the number of pieces, the numerator. So when you have more, let me see, I think I can, right, here we go. Well, right, when we have more pieces in the numerator and bigger pieces, right? So the denominator is smaller than the other denominator. So it's really thinking about the relative size of each of these fractions.